dive. Today, we're really digging into something quite somber, but incredibly important. That's the Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner crash. Happened in Ahmedabad, India, just recently, June 12th, 2025. Our goal here really is to try and understand what we know so far, cut through the initial, shock, and see what's next in this investigation. So the first thing, absolutely critical, was how quickly they recovered both black boxes. We're talking about the flight data recorder, the FDR, and the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR. These are just essential, right? They're like the plane's memory.
Exactly. They hold the keys, everything from engine performance, what the pilots were saying to each other, any alarms, control inputs, right up to the final moments. It's all potentially in there.
And that data, it's being looked at right now.
Yeah.
Who's involved?
Oh, yes. Intense analysis is already underway. India's AAIB, their Accident Investigation Bureau, they're leading it. But they've got support. Experts from the UK, the US NTSB, that's the National Transportation Safety Board, which IFAA too, naturally, since it's a US-built plane, and Boeing themselves are involved.
A global effort, then.
Absolutely. And, the scale of this, it's staggering. This is actually the first fatal crash ever involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner anywhere. So it's not just about the mechanics. It's a profound human tragedy. We're looking at 241 people on board lost and at least 38 more on the ground. It's the deadliest aviation accident in India's history.
Wow. The first fatal Dreamliner crash. That's hard to grasp, given the technology. And amidst all that devastation, there's this incredible story of the survivor.
Right. Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, seated in exit row 11A, survived with only minor injuries. Experts are calling it a miracle.
How did they think he managed that?
The thinking is his seat location near an exit was key, and possibly somehow he was separated from the main fireball upon impact. Just extraordinary luck, really.
Incredible. So the investigation itself, what's the initial focus? I've heard about engine failure.
That's certainly where a lot of early attention is. An extremely rare dual-engine failure scenario. It seems plausible, given how quickly things deteriorated. But, and this is important, investigators are being incredibly thorough. They're not just stopping there.
Okay, so what else is on the table?
Well, everything, essentially. Bird strikes, for example.
Yeah.
Always a possibility. They're looking at the flap configuration that's crucial for lift, especially during takeoff or approach. Also, the activation of the RAT, the ram air turbines, like an emergency generator. Did it deploy? When? Why?
So all potential mechanical or external factors?
Yes, but it goes broader. They're explicitly saying no theory is off the table. That includes even sabotage, though there's no specific indication yet. They're reviewing CCTV, talking to witnesses, looking deep into pilot training records, dispatcher logs, the plane's entire maintenance history, even ground operations at the airport. It's a full-spectrum investigation.
And has this triggered any immediate actions from regulators?
Oh, definitely. India's DGCA, their aviation authority, moved fast. They've ordered Air India to hand over pilot and dispatcher training records. And they're widening that review to flight schools, too. Plus, urgent inspections and emergency drills are happening at airports.
And Air India's other Dreamliners?
All 33 of them are undergoing urgent checks, as you'd expect, really. This has already caused delays and cancellations on the same route, just as a precaution.
Makes sense. This must put huge pressure on both Boeing and Air India.
Absolutely. For Boeing, it's the first fatal crash for their flagship Dreamliner after 16 years. That's a big deal for their safety reputation. And for Air India, their leadership is under intense scrutiny, not just operationally, but how they're handling the public response, their overall safety culture.
Right. So the big question is, when do we get more concrete answers? What's the timeline looking like?
The authorities have set up a high-level committee. They're expecting a preliminary report specifically focusing on the black box data in maybe a few weeks. Then, a more comprehensive preliminary investigation report, that's likely within about 3 months.
Okay, weeks for the initial black box readout, months for the broader preliminary finding.
Exactly. And it might seem slow, but these meticulous investigations, they are absolutely vital. This is how aviation safety improves, by understanding these complex failures, sometimes these tragic failures, down to the smallest detail. That's how we prevent them happening again.
That makes total sense. So as we wait for more information, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about, considering this involves the Dreamliner, such an advanced aircraft, and this incredibly thorough investigation, what deeper lessons might emerge here, beyond the immediate cause? Could this change how we think about, say, automation in the cockpit, or even emergency procedures on the ground? It's definitely something to keep in mind. Stay curious as more critical details come out from those black boxes and the full investigation.